What is up, my friends, my family, my people who all switched to the revised Ranger class? How are you all doing? My name is Paul. This is Tank Top Gaming. Sorry, it's a bit late and my arm hurts like hell because I keep doing that in the mirror and pathetic. Anyway, this is a quick intro to this video that I edited several days ago. It's coming out really late, so late in fact that tomorrow I will be streaming Chapter 2 of Out of the Abyss. Yikes. Well, that's okay, because at least it's coming out. However, it's not, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not coming out as a full pie. I've actually edited out a chunk of this video. That chunk is how I personally DM'd my way through the first chapter. And if you think that's not fair, you can go in the link and click on my Twitch link. And maybe tomorrow you can catch me with a whole bunch of other DMs where we all talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We give a forum. And if you have any questions, personally, I will answer them and hopefully I can help out. Or maybe you can teach me something. Also, you can catch this thick ass water bottle. And if you actually look close, there's a whole bunch of white writing on it. What is this white writing? Those are my followers. So if you want me to think about your Twitch handle when I'm just exhausted and sweaty and I want to cry, there's a difference between the gym and me just waking up every morning. But nonetheless, if you want me to write your name on there and think about you every day, I would appreciate it. And one more thing. Was a secret? I'm super anxious. Even making this. This entire project is something I wanted to do 2 years ago, and I'm just finally doing it, and I don't know if I'm doing right. I know the editing is choppy. I know I make a lot of jokes that aren't funny. But I do think there is good content if you're at least looking to see how the game goes or how the chapter goes. So thank you, and please be kind. I know what I'm asking to the internet to be kind to me. But yeah, I really can't wait for our next stream and hopefully a better video with better jokes and better muscles. I'll see you at the DM gym. Thank you. It's good. It's good. We are rolling. That is awesome. Look at the top of this dude's head. I want to make sure it's on the screen. Thank you so much for coming to Tank Top DM, where all we do here is talk about tank tops, and I'm wearing Dungeons and Dragons, and damn, man, I'm ready to be here. I'm having a good time. I'm excited for today. I got a question for you, though. That's right, you, chat. That's right. Do you have a hard time role-playing sadistic kidnappers who like to live deep underground and, really like spiders? Do you have a hard time doing that? Because if no, you've come to the right place, baby. Because any problem like that, man, we got the answers for all your problems, baby, all of them. But if the answer no, you don't have a problem, we are calling the cops. Don't move. Legally, I have to call the cops. It's too late. They're already on their way. So for everyone else who's asking questions like saying, hey, who is this guy? Who even is this? And I do hear you, Kyle. I hear you from the screen. I can hear your every thought. I am Paul, or TankTopDM. I finished playing Out of the Abyss a few years ago. I've been playing a lot of other Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna stop the bravado for a second. Get serious. I've been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons for quite a while. Maybe 5 years. We've been playing Curse of Strahd. The Abyss has been finished, thanks to moi. We've been doing a bunch of one-shots with hotels and dead giraffes and all kinds of goofy stuff. And I kind of realized that, man, I've always wanted a show where someone can go by and kind of talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, do that. That exists. There's thousands of those. Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, hey, quick tip to make everyone like your goblin NPC. The thing is that a lot of people, want to play Dungeons and Dragons, and unfortunately, scheduling is just the killer of all these campaigns, man. But outside of that, buying a module, getting the people together, having friends. What the fuck? How am I supposed to do that? And even worse, one of you guys has a DM. Now that could be a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is, and for me, I love DMing. I'm gonna try and say a lot of people are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it's hard to get everything together. And the thing is that the good folks over at Wizards of the Coast, have been writing some pretty good stories. You know, Tiamat, Curse of Strahd being a classic, and some of these stories even get spawn off, and they inspired artists to write a whole bunch of books about him, like published stuff about Drizzt, which is someone who's actually in the in Out of the Abyss, and a few other people. Drow that are really famous. It's specifically because there's really good content in here. And here's the problem. Oh, there he is. There he is. Thank you, Kyle31095. I have to show this off. I can show these off. Sorry, I'm not allowed to do that in most places. So, like I'm in my own room. That's really the only reason I want to stream. Kyle, let me do something for you. I got this little ozone, nice, sweet little water bottle. I bring it to the gym everywhere I go. You gotta drink water. You gotta be happy. And if you can see, there's a few other names on here, huh? Well, guess what, Kyle? Guess what? Oh, I guess not. Ink just went all over my damn bed. Now, every time I go to the gym, every time I'm deadlifting, every time I'm benching, I'm squatting, and I'm super close, and I'm just feeling, I'm like, oh man, I'm about to bust. Not in the good way, you know what I'm saying? My knees are about to break. I'm about to fucking die. Call the police. I'm gonna think of Kyle. I'm gonna think of Kyle31095. I'm gonna think about what I'm thinking about Star-Lord Special. I'm thinking about Dizzy Board. You guys keep me going. You guys make me fucking strong. So what the fuck? What tangent was I was going on? Anyway, I want to learn about Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't want to play the damn game. It takes too much effort, takes too much anxiety. We need DM, we need this, we need this, we need this. So there's twofold reasons to follow this and watch my stream. Here's how. What if you do want a DM? Baby, you just fucking joined the school. You just joined the class, baby. Oh, if you want a DM, it's a difficult task. There's a lot of stuff to read. Look at this. I didn't read this when I DM'd it. I shouldn't tell you this because I feel like this is kind of like not gonna help my stream, but I literally read these chapters like the day before the session, if not during the session. Curse of Strahd. I don't know what the fuck this is. The Player's Handbook. I mean, like, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of this. That's a lot of that. That's me sitting down and writing shit out and doing math. What the fuck? I don't want to do that. But it's not that hard. It's not that hard if you join me, come and chat, talk about some of your stories, tell me some of the good success, tell you about the failures. I'm going to be telling you about all the failures that I had. That's the nice thing about Out of the Abyss Chapter 1, or the whole book, is that I'll go through and explain all the things that I wish I did better, man. And honestly, hopefully you can teach me a couple things in chat. Oh, I would love to see it. Quote Kyle31095. Love to see it. Now here's the other thing. What if you don't want to play it because humans smell and, you know, some sort of pandemic was around the corner and, like, you got kind of used to sitting at home, or you never went outside in the first place. You didn't even realize there was a pandemic going outside. Maybe you just want to watch a 30-minute long video that's like, hey, this is what this is all about. This is what this is about. Well, you're in fucking luck, because that's what we're going to do here. First, we're going to go through an overview of the entire campaign, the entire setting. Then we're going to go through and we're going to go through the chapter. The first chapter, I'm going to divide that into a few sections. The summary of the chapter, the map of the chapter, the layout, the characters of the chapter, or the NPCs as well, how the game would normally run the campaign, right? So it's like if I just went book to book, page to page, so I should have said page to page, and I just did the very neutral thing, like, oh, your players can blah, 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 your players can blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give you a summary of that, and then... And I'm only doing this on my Twitch, so if you're on YouTube and you're watching some of these summary videos, you won't be seeing this part. Link is in the description for the Twitch. I'm going to be telling you what we did during our campaigns, and that's really good insight, because if you like it, you'll be like, oh, well, maybe I gotta listen to this guy more. And if you don't like it, I don't want to talk about that, really. I'm not a fan of anything like that. I'd rather just fucking don't say nothing at all, really. So let's just get right into it. So, first thing we're going to talk about, welcome, join us for Out of the Abyss. You know it, you know what I'm talking about. What is this big monkey? What is that? That is a monkey, by the way. Original fucking first edition renditions made him. I gotta show you guys. Demogorgon first edition. Now, a few of you, fuck, I don't care how I spell. Google knows what I'm looking for. That's the monster. That's the bad guy. That's a bad guy. And see, this is why a lot of people don't play Out of the Abyss. It's because they look at this and they say, well, I was gonna say, how do you work with that? But honestly, now I kind of wish I just looked at this instead of preparing my campaigns, because that's terrifying. But that's a Demigorgon. But you may also know the Demigorgon as this stupid piece of shit. Yeah, being a little biased, it does kind of suck that like everyone's like, oh, you're from Stranger Things, and I'm like, no, no. But this is a Demigorgon, right? Let's start off the bat. What is a Demigorgon? What is this plot about? Out of the Abyss is about your party, you know, whoever's born, getting, or oh, this thing's $249. I don't even get off task, but that's the beginning of the campaign. Starts with your characters all getting wound up and put in prison. Now I'm going to go way more into detail chapter by chapter. That's kind of obvious, but we're just going to do a nice summary of the whole campaign. Your characters start out as prisoners of the Drow. Drow are elves who have been kind of bred and had a whole civilization underground, right? Everything they do is deep, deep, deep under the ground, and usually they all live in the Menzoberranzan, and or we called it Mesopotamia, just because I thought that was easier to pronounce. Which is ironic because I just messed it up. But that's the city of spiders, right? And spiders, what the hell? The Drow's whole like symbiotic thing is everything spiders, right? They all worship Lolth, who is the goddess of, you know, spiders, and amongst other things. I'm gonna get a few like, actually Lolth is like the, I don't even want to do this joke because I don't care. So the Drow capture this party, right? And they put them downstairs, downstairs being in the Underdark, an entire civilization, an entire, I should say, area, a continent beneath the surface. You can make it hundreds of miles, you can make it thousands of miles. The deeper, the better, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? You know, they live deep underground. And it's kind of like the Hollow Earth theory in a sense, because you have a lot going on. You know, everyone thinks about Dungeons and Dragons and like the field and like, you know, think about like the Witcher series, right? Like out on the surface, there's a whole bunch of magic and there's trees of life and fucking time traveling and two swords. Two swords. Well, imagine what's going out 1,000 miles underneath that. An entire lore, an entire years of adventuring, years of pioneering, years of man. I mean, in the Underdark, dwarves built the city of Gonsel or Gracklestov, the city of blades. The only other city to rival a similar name, Gauntlgrim. Gauntlgrim being one of the biggest dwarven cities in all of Dungeons and Dragons, or all in Faerûn. A lot of their weapons, a lot of your shields and stuff like that will come from there. And I mean, the shield of dwarven kind, right? That originated in Gauntlgrim through one of like a lot of their rulers kind of passing it down. You can get a whole bunch of different ways. Sometimes the canon of the books just kind of like misplace crap, like literally, or they'll give you 14 swords that are on fire, and then in our campaign, all of us have one, so it's kind of like not even a big deal. But but like basically, the city of Blades, Gracklestov, is this parallel almost town that's run by a wormsmith, is what they call him, instead of a blacksmith. A wormsmith having a giant adult red dragon who is incredibly obedient, but not too obedient to those dwarves. And every night he flies by and using his powerful magic in his breath and his fire, he fuels the furnaces. And every day when they walk out there, the dwarves are used to it. All those people that live under there, I shouldn't say dwarves, actually Draugr. Now I look stupid. Yes, Draugr are Underdark dwarves. And now what does that mean? It's kind of like the same thing with Drow. Drow being the Underdark elves. Draugr being the Underdark version of the dwarves, and you have the same thing with the gnomes being deep gnomes, right? A lot of their skin is like this crustier, harder shell, and they're basically like just like tough as nails versions of every race above, and they're all equally like horrible to each other. But basically there's cities going on underneath there, cities that, like I said, rival the cities above on the surface. And that's crazy, because imagine how much, when I say burger When I say Neverwinter, right? Like everyone knows what I'm talking about. Neverwinter Nights, or Baldur's Gate has its own. Basically, all the good cities have a name or a game named after them. But no one thinks about like the massive cities like Menzoberranzan being the spider city. That's like the New York of spiders and drow. This giant slave pen, but also a matriarchy that's pushing the boundaries of a lot of really awesome like social norms, right? The drow being a matriarchy being incredibly pivotal to their culture and even the campaign, and that's really cool if you can do a real serious kind of breakdown and parallel things. And there's a lot to learn, a lot of good stuff. Of course you can not do that. You can do what we do. Yeah, look at his beard, dude. This is Santa Claus, bro. I'm so glad that we're like 20 minutes in and I finally can show you what I was trying to. Ho ho ho, everybody. So the point is that there's a lot going on in the Underdark, right? You can have adventures going left and right, as many as you're having on the surface, right? So the characters are brought down there. The drow are ready to sacrifice them, bring them to Menzoberranzan, where they will be killed for Lolth's glory, right? In the midst of that, something happens. The characters break out, and just around that time, they will probably wander the Underdark for a while before they run into mysterious things going on. Nightmares, tentacles of this oil viscous, disgusting power, right? I mean, fungus that takes on humanoid shapes and begins to eat other life, absorbing it and taking it selfishly as their own and only leaving decaying remnants. I mean, you have Orcus and the undead resurrecting, trying to claim that entire the entire surface all over again. Orcus only wants to see things go back to normal. Just so it was in the beginning, nothing existed, nothing was alive. Then Orcus is like, bro, why is everyone mad at me? I'm just trying to get right back to the status quo. Quote. And there's even more than that. There's Fraz Al Ghul, whose madness is driving kingdoms to literally beat the shit out of each other, and only because he thinks it's really funny. All of this, the other thing too is these demons are no joke. The Demogorgon being over 50 feet tall, a monster of disgusting power, someone who's the very presence of them being on this world, causing reality to shift and break. And the characters, once they start to see that these demons, oh my god, these demons are coming on out of the abyss. That's like the thing. Once the demons are coming out of the abyss and the characters start to see them, they have no chance of fighting them. At this level, they're level 4, they're level 5. Even at level 10, this is a disgusting battle. The power balance shouldn't even like. It is just such an unfathomable force that's being released, to the point where the very presence of the demons beginning to come out of the abyss and onto this plane causes a sort of cancer to exist in the air. And what do I mean by this? Well, there's something called phase res. Phase res it is, boys. What is this? This is literally radiation that is just living and growing out of their bodies. Star-Lord, I'll get back to phasers. I do have to finish my thought. So phasers is a type of fog, a radiation that is birthed from the very spawn of these monsters. And what is phasers? Well, it's just this kind of like inky, chaotic, disgusting power, right? I said disgusting 4 times now. But it's like chaos magic in the sense of wild sorcerers, right? When they cast a spell, there's a chance when you roll on the D table. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's something called a chaos magic table. And in Dungeons and Dragons, if you are tapping into the power of chaos, you get to roll a D100 or 2 D10s, and then the first number and then the second, and then you end up getting a really cool random effect. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's fireball. For me, I gotta get this table up. For me, I've had 2 characters. One of my own and one in the chat. Dizzy-Bird mentioned to me last stream that one of his characters turned into a potted plant, a pot of pots. Here's the table. A Modron chosen, controlled by the DM, controls you. You cast Fireball, 3rd level, centered on yourself. That's pretty horrible. You're frightened by the nearest creature. That sounds bad. Can we get a good one? Oh, you cast Mirror Image. That's cool. I'm casting Mirror Image. But now that I kind of explain a little bit of that, I'm going to go to a chat really quick. I keep going with phasers, right? Phasers is an effect that, like I said, it comes out of basically their skin, their very presence. And whatever this touches, the blood war. Thank you so much, Starless. I knew I was close. This phasers can warp reality, right? So you can do things like whenever I had phasers fill up an entire cavern, and then I had a bunch of wizards fight my party, right? And I had that I had my own spellcasters there, but I wanted to make sure that both sides were getting it. And every time they cast magic, I had a random roll, and then I would affect that. But what else can you do with the phasers? Well, it's insane chaos black magic, right? When you're in the Underdark for 7, 12, 10 months, so what can you do with this, right? The characters haven't seen the sun in 10,000 years. You're on session 24 and they're only at Menzoranzan, or they should not be in Menzoranzan. I'll get to that on that chapter. But they're wandering around and it's just tunnels after tunnels and demons showing up and madness, right? Fungus coming to life trying to enslave them, drow coming out trying to enslave them, me trying to enslave them. I mean, it's pretty bad all around, but you can start to play with the illusions of it. I've had my players think they saw the sun just because, like I said, with the illusion power of the phasers, you can do crazy stuff like that. It could be just pure madness. Having plants grow around phasers can imbue them into weird, tentacle, disgusting creatures of demonic fortitude. And that's the cool thing about being a DM, is that there are no rules on this. The book itself, the module is like, yeah, man, like crazy stuff happens, maybe the wild magic table, but truly, you can do whatever you want. I like to think of it as whenever my players, this is how I think you're doing phasers right. If your players enter an area and you describe the phasers, for me, I always described it as snow forming on the ground, almost like dust, and then floating up very slowly. And I would have, a chasm of this, like just thousands and thousands of miles of this slow flowing snow, and it's beautiful. And genuinely, literally, it's a beautiful image that you can paint, but it hides this powerful madness that could give your characters exhaustion for no reason, give them levels of madness for no reason, have them thinking that they're hearing something, have a character who, when they've interacted in phasers, their heart no longer beats. Thunder. I have to get to Thunder, Chad. Kyle's skipping a few chapters. He's talking about the Wormsmith from the City of Blades. Add some phasers there, right? Phasers, a madness corrupting power phenomenon, and a red dragon who's tired of working as a smith for a bunch of dwarves. And put them together, and you can do whatever you want. Start fusing it, like maybe the phasers affects his skin, turning into like some sort of a black obsidian dragon, or the characters kill him and they infuse their bones, bringing them back. I mean, you can genuinely do anything. Like I said, maybe your characters don't cast a shadow after they walk through it. Start with small things, and then you start to build on it. Really show them that the madness is growing. And that's what this first half of Out of the Abyss is. You're going from place to place, watching these innocent areas just destroy themselves. Civil war after civil war, as the civilians of Shlooptaloop, a fish village ran by the Koatoa, they begin to argue about which demon they should summon, or the mushrooms of Blinding Stone, who have been tranquil and pacifist for a millennia, and all of a sudden now they have to start carrying weapons, and where does this idea come from? Who thinks that carrying weapons on this peaceful like little town is a good idea? It's like, well, the madness, the phasers, the demons coming back all have to do with that. And so like I said, the first season, you go place to place to place, and for my characters personally, it was like, wow, let's see what village kind of gets messed up and how it happens. The only ones was my party the reason that the whole place burned down. I won't go into that because it gives me horrible memories, man. But the whole point is that they're going from place to place and seeing this madness grow. And by the time that they reach the surface, your characters have this kind of sense of like, not my problem, I am out of here, right? And they think that that's it. But then they don't, right? 1 week out on the surface, they know that down there the Demogorgon's lurking, destroying villages without a second thought. The fire, this engine of destruction, just free. How long would it take for him to scale up into the surface world? What about one of the most amazing characters, in my opinion, Zugmi. Zugmi is amazing. A demon lord who takes flesh and transforms it into her disgusting will. Zugmi has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers and worshippers, but not a single one of them has their own mind, all of them belonging to Zugmi at all times. Someone so selfish and arrogant to have her own creations worship her. Sounds like some gods I know. One second. I'll take a quick break before I get banned from Twitch. So once your characters are out, they're immediately invited back in. Their court is being held by the King of Gauntlgrim. Gosh, I only know our goofy names. I was gonna say Bruno Battlemars, and his name is not. It's not Bruno Battlemars. Brainer Battlemars. Well, he invites all everyone back in. He says, hey, listen, I know you guys have been in the Underdark for about 6-7 months. Really, no one knows how long until they get out, right? So that I understand that this whole time you've been escaping death, just nearly. The Demigorgon rises, like I said, his presence just burning the water into crisp just by standing in it, you know. They go to the next place. They see the Civil War and just death and destruction. And this whole time they're running. At all points they're being pursued. The Drow never forgot about them. They're always on pursuit as well. And so there's always this chase going on, and once the characters get to the surface, it should be like, hey, we get to rest for a second. The whole point of the second half of the book, and personally it's my favorite half, is to go back and bring your own arsenal. You're coming back into the Underdark with legions of crew from different sort of armies, and this is from all sorts of canon. The Emerald Enclave, the Order of the Gauntlet, the Harpers. I mean, these are characters that show, or these are legions that show up in Waterdeep, right? If you do the campaign for Waterdeep, like I was saying, you end up coming back into the Underdark with an entire allegiance of individuals, from paladins to rogues and stuff. And what I did in my personal campaign was I kind of formed the different groups to a specific class of one of my friends. One of my friends for sure, but all of my friends, I should say. But my party members, right? Assign them. Have your party be in charge of their own allegiance, right? The rogues, the spies, the soldier, the fighters, right? The spellcaster, the cleric takes care of the sorcerers and the wizards as well. You can kind of assign things, and eventually your characters will have this entire army, and they will head right back down in the Underdark. And the reason is because there's a library in the Underdark, and it's one of those like it has to want you to find it type thing. Where, like, you know, there's just insane amounts of knowledge in this library, this stone library. There's everything recorded of every possible past, the present, and the possible futures. And the nice kind of nifty way to go around it, because you're like, oh, well, free will doesn't exist if there's a future stuff, is that all these futures are only possible, right? And so your characters will go down there to figure out, hey, what can we do to stop the demons? There has to be like that Doctor Strange timeline where he's zooming and warping around. There has to be something we can do. When the characters get there, they will find an individual, a drow, who I won't spoil too much, but offers a way out. This individual offers the Black Heart, one of my favorite items in all of D&D. And the reason I like it too, and I gotta give credit to this guy. I'll be emailing him soon. I have my tattoo, but the Black Heart is the pinnacle of sin, like the icon of sin. Genuinely, just the mere thought of crafting this is enough to surge your characters into the deepest pits of hell. I didn't tell my party that. I don't know if I do want to make it like non-canon because I didn't say it, or I'm just like keeping like a low-key secret. And some of them are in the chat, so I'm like, I wouldn't really tell them. But the Black Heart is a mishmash of a bunch of different items. And really quick, Elven Tower, these guys are awesome. I'm going to go back in the ending of the stream to give this guy full credit because this is such an amazing image. But the Black Heart is a mishmash of a bunch of different things. Here we can see a Beholder Eye. I think it was 12 or 13 angel wings, and the blood of... Oh no, they're listening. My party members are listening in the chat. The blood or the heart of demons, an egg from a giant purple worm. Mishmash this all together, and what do you got? You got basically the reason I now realize thinking about it why I like this so much is you basically create like the 2021 Royal Rumble belt, because when all these items are put together, it attracts all of the demon lords on the plane to its location. Happens when you get all of the items or all the demons in one place. Well, let's get ready to rumble, man. They're literally going to beat the shit out of each other until one of them stands, and the entire goal is at that point. So once all the demons beat the crap out of each other, one of them should be, alive. And for me, that was the Demigorgon. Of course, I'm going to pick the Demigorgon. Of course, you're going to play the Godzilla theme when the Demigorgon comes out. Are you kidding me? It'd be illegal. Literally illegal not to do that. But if you want to do Orcus, if you want to do this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, that's all up to you. I like the fact that he's on the cover, and I feel like it would be pretty rude not to do it, right? So that's Out of the Abyss. In the end, your characters will defeat the final demon lord, and they should be all heroes. My family, that is Out of the Abyss. They should come out as heroes. My party, one of my clerics god had to be like, hey, you're not a good guy, and you just should be good guys. That's basically the story. It's awesome. There's a lot of stuff I left out, like all the cities, all of the towns. There's so much cool stuff going on there. And the reason I'm like, in all seriousness making this is because Out of the Abyss does have a track record of being a bit of a sloth in the beginning. And one of the main reasons is because you literally kind of railroad them once they're traveling from place to place. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's a network of tunnels. Think of a freaking anthill, or not an anthill, an ant colony. And I don't want that, guy. This is the Underdark. I don't know what the book is trying to be like, giving you all kinds of like pictures and maps and stuff. That's basically it. And replace the ants with spiders, and you're good. When you're DMing, you have to make these tunnels make sense, right? And there is a bit of like I said earlier, there's this pursuit that's constantly going. So you want to give natural obstacles, but I mean, what else can you do besides rocks? And then your character has dark vision, and they see 15 feet ahead further. There's a lot more rocks. And then when your character's a cleric and prays to God, and the God's like, let there be rocks. And it's just the same shit again and again. And it really does have to. You do have to focus and flex your muscles a little bit and start to throw some fun stuff in there. The phasers, right? Rock octopuses. I really like rocks. All of my stuff is just rocks. You have some pretty amazing stuff going on. Anyway, I want to get into the first chapter. I want to do this a lot better than I did last time. I'm very excited. So, chapter 1. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a summary of the chapter. A straight summary in the sense of, if you just want to know what happens in the first chapter, well, here's what it is, a summary. So, as I said earlier, characters will wake up on a cold rocky surface, and they will not have their equipment. They will not have anything except for their hands bound, and the nice touch of a magical little gate. And now, what do I mean? What am I trying to say? Your character will literally wake up in a pen, and this is the first thing that happens. In my case, we went a little bit of a different route. We introduced like a session 0 and Phandalin and stuff like that. But literally on the first page, the book will describe to you what it's like for them to wake up, which is literally that they'll see the NPCs that are also trapped with them. Like I said, that the Drow are collecting people to bring them to Men's or Brands and to slaughter them in the name of the wolf with other characters, and they will find a couple of doodads around. The book does offer a table of hey, like your characters might find a dagger, it might find a gold coin, might find a tarantula or something laying around, right? And so you can kind of do that and just give them a little bit of feel. But the whole point is that they will realize that they only have each other and whatever the Drow's kind of emotive, right? And again, that's to eventually slaughter them. So the entire first chapter, the Drow are coming in and making them do meaningless tasks, stacking rocks, cleaning the spiders. I don't know if spiders need to be cleaned. I mean, honestly, like cleaning the floor with toothbrushes, having them just wander around, having them do the same thing again and again, just wearing them out, just for the fun of it, right? And the reason that they do this is because they're incredibly their force here is incredibly overwhelming. There's about 12 Drow in this area that the characters wake up in this encampment in the Underdark, and like 14 spiders and multiple of I believe they're called quasits, which are really fun. Misspelled it, but I guarantee nope. Let's pretend this is what I want. What they are werewolves. So they're basically Oh, I don't like how my safe search is off. I've mentioned this before, and I don't like this. But basically, they're half wolfman, right? This is a better picture of what I'm expecting. So you have Quagoths. So you have Quagoths walking around spiders. You have Drow. You have Drow elites, and then you have the priestesses. As I mentioned earlier, there's is the Drow have a form of I had this problem last time. Matriarchy. So it is basically no individual has power unless an authority, which is a woman figure, gives it to them. And even then, it is like, you're my slave. One of these individuals has them be like, you're my boyfriend for now, or you're my leader, my champion for a second. But literally none of them, all of them would be stripped of that if not for giving it to them by another higher figure, right? And that's really interesting. That's really cool, because now when you have the priestesses walk in, it's no longer this aid of a mage, like, oh, I use this magic missile on the side. Now when Ilvara walks in, or Ashra walks in, these are two of the Drow priestesses mentioned. Um, this is a showstopper. Because all the elite guards and all the cool fighters with their action surge take a step on the side and they let the bosses talk, and that'll actually happen. Ilvara and Ashra are the two leading priestesses. Ashra being the apprentice to Ilvara. That's Ilvara right there, basically. So gosh, I am fumbling and stumbling. So Elvira will come in and personally bully the residents, which is your party and a few of the NPCs that you choose to have accompany them with. Spiders can survive in space. I don't think that's true, Dizzy Bird. But tardigrades can, and you should put more tardigrades in whatever campaign. If there's one tip I can give you as a DM, it's that you should put. Oh, Face Money Express, so rad. Hell yeah! Oh no. I didn't cap my pen. If you like polka, stick around, because after every stream, I just do 2 hours of polka music. It's horrendous and it's so exhausting, but I have to do it. Anyway, Elvira will come in and she'll literally harass everyone. The nice thing about Elvira is that she is a whatever it takes type of person, and she will ensure her goal of bringing all of the slaves to Menzo Branson. This is the only thing she cares about. Ashra, on a similar level, isn't as important to the plot, but she's kind of there as in case Elvira dies, you can always have Ashra come in and to take revenge, right? So Elvira will be like, hey guys, no matter what, she'll treat them like pets because you're nothing more than rocks to her. Genuinely, these individuals in the party, that's how you should kind of, as your DM, you should kind of play it. That Ilvar doesn't care for any of that at all. And she will often taunt them, and she'll even heal them. And one of the reasons she'll do that is, and this is pretty cool, is that one of the meaningless tasks, or one of the just horrible tortures, is that Elvira will have one of her soldiers come in and potentially, oh my god, we're going way off. This was supposed to be better than last time, guys. This is horrible. Elvira will come in and do all that stuff. I said that 100 times, right? And she will even heal some of the characters. And what the reason she would do that is if any of the characters in their kind of escape attempts or doing something stupid die or come to 1 HP, she will go out of her way to resurrect them. And this is because, again, it has nothing to do with feelings. She needs this body to be on its two legs because it's easier for you to walk yourself to the slaughtering pit than for Elvira to carry you. That's the whole thing of Elvira. So as you guys play, the other Drow that are mainly important are two other individuals who are both males. One's named Jorland, who is extremely important to this chapter. Jorland, you'll see walking around with Elvira, he'll kind of be the back-end bodyguard. He's actually a disgraced bodyguard and the ex-lover of Elvira. Jorland had a black pudding melt half of his face off. Instead of being like, wow, man, that's really cool, and like, I like you for your feelings and your personality, Elvira was just like, not a chance. Dumped his ass, right? And now Jorland feels like crap. Jorland's following this chick around, doing all of her biddings, and his entire reputation's been dropped because he lost with a black pudding. So who takes his place is another individual named Shur. Shur is Elvira's new lover and the highest in command of all the Drow ever since Jorland dropped out due to his mishap. So basically, this is the setup for the Drow. They'll come in, they'll harass the individuals, and eventually, with time, they will transport them to Menzo Branson. The characters will eventually escape in however way easiest for them, right? One thing that they could do is, I mean, you can do the classic, right? The guards aren't paying attention and they hit them. I wouldn't do that. this should be an overwhelming odds thing. This should be, I kind of explained this last time. Here's the kind of tolerance of being bullied by the drow, right? And then here's the tolerance of the risk factor of getting out of there. It should be like this every single day up until they're getting ready to escape, right? So maybe the last 4 days, you have to put up the ante. The drow start to fight the individuals. They start to let Ilvara heal them. They start to let the Quagals, you know, chase them around for an extra meal or something like that. And slowly, they're reaching this point where, listen, if we stay here, we're going to die. And that's literally the case. If we get out, at least we have a chance. And that kind of balance is what you have to play with as a DM. Eventually, it'll get to the point where the characters need to get out. So working with their NPCs, whoever the NPCs are that you bring in, they will try to escape. Now, there's 2 ways that the books kind of recommend it, and the best way to do it is to put it together. Jorlan will eventually not feel pity, certainly not that. Jorlan will want to kind of do his best to disgrace Ilvara and make her feel what he feels for a second. The way he does this is on a night very close to when the March to Menzoberranzan begins. Jorlan will come in and open the gates. He'll say, hey, you know, he might not even say anything. The characters might be like, why do you do this? He doesn't care. To him, his entire mentality, again, is to disgrace Ilvara. He doesn't need the characters to know that. All he needs to do is let them free. In case a conversation comes out, maybe your bard is trying to do that classic seduction thing. I don't even know. Maybe you just have someone who's willing to ask the questions. Good Lord knows none of our players do that. Ask questions, not a chance. So if asked, Jorlan will let them know. Say, hey, listen, I don't care if you live. I sure as hell don't care if you escape. But I know that if I leave this door unlocked, you fools will make a mess. You'll try to escape. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll light something on fire. Right? Anything to that attempt or to that level will piss Ilvara off incredibly bad. Ilvara's not bald. Ilvara's a little bald. No, Ryan says he's bald. He's bald. So, as I was kind of saying, eventually the characters will get out because Jorlan's letting them out. Again, Jorlan won't help him any further than that. Jorlan might not bring equipment. I sure as hell didn't do that. I want the characters to seriously be on a just barely surviving type of mentality. And so when they're offered out, they need to think fast. You know, are we going to make a quick escape? Are we going to stealth our way out the whole way? And I'll explain the map in a little bit. That's one of my bits in the chapter. But the characters shouldn't feel optimistic about this. If you're a good DM, maybe they might even, I shouldn't say good DM. I shouldn't say good DM because, you know, everyone has their own thing. But personally, I like the idea of having your team constantly be like, you know, I don't know if we should do this, you know? It should be insanely difficult and an intimidating task. But your players, you know, will eventually run out and get their way out of their shackles using a strength check. Maybe they found the keys. Once they're out past the magic resistance barriers, the spellcasters can go and find some sort of piece of equipment that might help them. In terms of equipment, the idea is that the drows captured them before the campaign starts. And so whatever equipment that they've had is now taken away from them. Usually the book mentions that it's stated they are placed in Ilvara's quarters. In this kind of area, this camp at this prison, there are basically 3 buildings. One housing Ilvara and Ashra, one housing Jorlan and some of the guards, and then another one being like an armory and then like a little like a food area. Then the rest of the area is an entire cavern. So already it's pretty bleak because the only way out is to go straight down. Being this cavern, kind of the way I think about it is that your characters are kind of stuck in the midst of the Grand Canyon, only like multiply the height and the height on both ends like by 1,000. Height on both ends. Math is not my strong suit. That's why I'm not a good DM. But keep going on that route. As the characters are trying to escape, maybe they'll try and go get their equipment. Maybe they'll take the equipment from any drow that they've managed to knock out. And that's kind of what ended up happening in our crew. But then you just let chaos go. You know, Elvara knows, and now she's coming, and she's a powerful spellcaster. There should be no reason why your party can take her on at all. And this isn't some sort of railroading gimmick, right? This isn't like, I like this character, I want her to be strong, or I don't want my players to, you know, feel too great, too powerful. Because the goal is to make your players have fun. That's the only thing that's important. You can do that while having an intimidating presence, right? The reason people like Avengers Endgame or Thanos in general is because, yeah, he's a bad guy. He kills their favorite characters. Fucking spoiler alert. But like, you know, when Loki died, I remember like some of my friends like even like crying and like making a big deal about it, right? And that's one of their favorite characters, and yet they still like Thanos. And so you can do that here too. I want to say you have paint Elvira as a Thanos like character because unfortunately the book straight up doesn't really offer too much. Her goal is to get on the Manzer Brands, and that's basically it. But I like to paint her as an obsessive, like tortured soul who literally cannot find peace unless other people are being sacrificed to her god or just straight tortured. And you can have a lot of fun with that. You can be sadistic a little bit. Being sadistic is fun, right, guys? So when the characters are trying to escape, have Trout running around, spiders crawling all over the place. It's disgusting. It's just Australia, basically. But then something else happens. As I mentioned earlier, in the campaign, your characters will start to see that there are demons afoot, right? So maybe your characters in the first session are having nightmares of tendrils. Maybe they see horns. Maybe they see wings that expand beyond their peripherals. Just disgusting corpses and mounds and mounds and mounds of bodies. You know, they're having these horrible lucid nightmares, and they're speaking to them, speaking to them, speaking to them. These nightmares are keeping them from sleeping, so now they're getting points of exhaustion, they're getting weird visions, and you know, even make them specific to these characters. Maybe attach Orcus to one character, maybe attach Zugmi to another one. And kind of mentioned, because like I said, this is the second time me kind of making the stream. Eventually what I've done, Down Under Dark, yes, eventually what you end up doing is pairing these individuals with their demons, because all the way back when I mentioned the WWE 2021 Royal Rumble, when the demons are all fighting each other, what I did was I gave my players the chance to play as the demon that I've kind of tethered with them the best that I could have. I didn't realize this kind of idea until like a session in a session from finishing. I don't want my players know that, but you can start planting seeds really early and foreshadowing. That's another, you know what, I'll just say it right now. Read the damn book before you fucking have your second session minimum, because man, I was trying to juggle a whole bunch of stuff. The demons are kind of coming out, and eventually their characters will start to see the Demigorgon in probably a few sessions after their escape. And so it's a good idea to start showing more foreshadowing of that outside of nightmares, the exact same time as the characters come out, or maybe even a session or two before, start to describe earthquakes that are going on. And by the time your characters come out, you know, these earthquakes are getting worse and worse, and they're starting to hear weird cackling screeches. And by the time they're going out, a good point to do this, a good point to put in this interruption is maybe when Ilvara finally confronts them, and you know, you have a few characters who don't even know that, like, what second wind is and stuff like that, and they're basically about to be trashed. You insert a Vrocked. A Vrocked demon is a really awesome out of the abyss kind of staple. You see this? That's Dungeons and Dragons. That's Dungeons and Dragons, baby. I don't know why you would even watch this when you literally have the Vrocked. Vrocked, the Rock Johnson. That took 17,000 brain cells to fucking say. So anyway, I introduced the Vrock. Right in between have a few other cherub demons running around too. This is a nice way to have a secondary kind of monster going out on the field. Maybe they're attacking Gilvara. Maybe they're attacking the Drow. Take some heat off. What I ended up doing, anyway, as I was going on, right, initiate the Vrock in there, and what I did with my players, and I should put this in later, was, you know, they'll have this idea of like, oh cool, well this is, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, this is good, a coincidence, we're gonna get out of here now, like there's no more fighting, there's no more initiative, right? Well, of course not. Right when they're out of their gourd, thinking that they're safe, you have the Vrock to come back again. This should be a party of level 2s, level 3s. They shouldn't be very strong. Have a few drow or giant spiders on their ass, and all of a sudden they have maybe 10, 15 as a collective pool, 50 health points. Bring in that Vrock back. Have a wing be damaged. Have its beak be shattered. Have it be bloodied. Bring it to 30 HP. You have to be careful, because a Vroct is incredibly powerful. But have your players have their very first almost like semi-boss with a Vroct, because by the end of the campaign, I'll say it right now, right? I and this was years ago. I remember the day that my characters fought this Vroct, and they did the entire situation I just set out. I also remember the day that one of my characters found a Vrock chained up. I mean, granted, it was chained up, but was able to slaughter it in his entire action. And this is way down the road, right? Or way down the road. Because by the time they're doing that, a few levels later, they're fighting the Demigorgon. They're taking on demons. By the end of the campaign, they're literally, demon busting asses. I don't know what that means. And so they will eventually escape. Now, where do they go? Well, that's where the NPCs come up. Now I'm going to go over the characters, and the reason I do that is because the characters in the pin, or the slave pen that they were born in, they really have one main role, and that's to give the characters a good incentive or a good motivation, or at least a destination on where they should go. And what I mean by that is, and I'll go down the list, right? The Koatoa, my favorite species, my favorite race, my favorite. Look at this. Look at this. This is Dungeons and Dragons. I know I say it a lot. I don't want you guys to become desensitized to it when I say this is Dungeons and Dragons. But if you don't think this is Dungeons and Dragons, then get out of here. Planchi, you're now pissing me off. This is awesome. This is Sushir. I mean, maybe not this guy, but this is in our campaign. This was Sushir, a pacifist Koatoa, amazing species. He basically just kind of took what it is to this obsessive amount. When you talk to Sushir in the slave pen, he, well, being a pacifist, a true pacifist, he has no intention on getting out. He has no intention on fighting. He's literally like, well, this kind of sucks that I'm here, and I'm probably going to die, and see you guys in Menzo Branson. He's literally this chill kind of attitude, and I did not play him as this chill attitude. I turned him into a freak, and I fucking loved it. I loved every second of it. I made him insane. Take a shot every time TankTopDM says, this is Dungeons and Dragons. For my character, I won't go into it until we get there. I ended up making Sushir a god. You know what? This is a good transition. This is a perfect transition. The fact that I made this a god, it'll make sense in a second. Sushir will offer the characters, hey, if we do get out, we're about a few days travel, maybe a week or 6 days, 5 days, 4 days, you're crazy. We can go to Shloop the town of Shloop, which is a Koatoa-run town that is living on the shores of the Dark Lake. The Dark Lake being the main highway in terms of the Underdark. Every biggest city connects naturally to the Dark Lake, including Menzo Branson and the Deep Gnomes and the Dwargar. And it's kind of, I really like that, because the idea of the symbolism of all these races being at war with each other, and they're just all horrible to each other. They're just horrible people. Even though there's this chaos and the demons are coming out of the madness, they all take from the same pool. They all drink the same water, and I think there's something to say about that. And you can really kind of play that culture out, especially like I said with the Drow, when you have the matriarchy and stuff like that. Play these cultures out. The Koatoa, they don't stop moving, just like a real fish, right? It's always swimming, and even if it's not, it's barely just moving, right? So the way I roleplayed the Koatoa is I always had them moving, shuffling about. They don't blink. I love that. That's ominous. It's creepy. It's alien, and that's the cool thing about Out of the Abyss. You can turn all these things into just strange, unfamiliar kind of ideas, and that goes a long way. Especially when you think about mushrooms and things like rocks. You can start to create some phenomenal things, and all it takes is your imagination. Or if you keep watching my page and we get to a good chapter, you can just do what I did. You'll probably have a 5 out of 10 campaign if you do that. So the chat was mentioning a god. Some of my players are in there. So there is actually a Pedo D&D. This is my friend Boopido. He wasn't in our campaign. I didn't put him in there. Kind of did something else. He believes he is a god. This is actually not the. I didn't realize that there's a few people who think they're gods. Boopido thinks that he appears as this wise old man who's all about he's like the Jedi Master, and like from the back, obviously look at his portrait, he looks like a fucking serial killer, and that's because he is. Boopido has been touched by the madness of Fraz Ghul. Blue. He is a hefty, beefy boy. There he is. There's my boy. I like my friend had his it's a wallpaper. It looks like Venom, but like it looks like a abomination from Hulk. But his entire thing isn't even being beefy muscles, man. His entire thing is inflicting insanity just by the mere presence of him. And he has made Bupito believe that he is a god and that he must sacrifice other corpses to kind of empower himself, right? And his whole plot is throughout the story, if you keep them in the party, you know, because you can throw NPCs in, make your own, take them out. You can do whatever you want. It's fucking D&D, baby. The characters will should start disappearing one by one, and I don't mean your party. I think it's a good idea to have some of your other characters, NPCs, or having NPCs that were literally made to be kind of like fodder, just to be killed off by Bupito. And the idea of like, what's going on? Is there that does like look like a Disney gargoyle. This is the demon. This is out of the abyss. Th- These are my players. These are my players. Female goblin. This is exactly what she looked like. Real Fraz, I showed Real Fraz a little bit ago. These monsters are intimidating. The Real Fraz is disgusting, and I fucking love it. I love his like grotesque, like kind of melting figure. So anyway, Bupito will imagine and try to sacrifice other players to him. Eventually, when you get to Gracklestaff, if Bupito is still in the party and he's still alive, there he will try to sacrifice the rest of the party. I did think that this was a little weak. I think if you have even fodder NPCs that are in the party, like literally characters you've designed to eventually die session after session to Bupito, right? He's either going to get caught right away. It's difficult to show a character disappears and the party is, even like with meta knowledge, they're probably not gonna know that they didn't do it to each other, and eventually just one by one you probably won't get to Gracklestaff with him killing individuals or even party members and your party not realizing it. And I kind of just left them out. I genuinely didn't think it was too fascinating, but I also had a pretty good party size, so I thought that the parties were doing a pretty good job. So that's right. Next is Jim Jar, I believe. So I took Susher and I kind of combined his whole idea with that's not fun. I've never seen this. That's not fun. That's handsome. I like him. Jim Jar actually is a god of chance. What he'll do, his entire gimmick is basically he will bet individuals like, hey, I bet you'll cross this bridge without taking damage. Hey, I bet you there are a lot, Dizzy Bird. There are a lot of bald creatures. Probably because like the sun. I don't know about this, and I wouldn't know. Well, actually, this makes sense. I don't go out a lot, and a lot of these guys are in the Underdark, so none of us see the sun, and that's why we all look this way, really. But Jim Jar believes that he's got a chance, and as I said earlier, he'll probably have your characters like pick fights that they probably shouldn't be able to take, but he'll bet them gold, right? Bet you 10 gold, blah blah blah. Bet you 10 gold, I can do this. Bet you 10 gold, I can do that. His entire gimmick is this betting thing. And eventually in the ending of the campaign, he'll kind of come back and, oh, there's no shampoo in the Underdark. But Jim Jar's whole gimmick is that by the end of the campaign, he'll be like, oh, I'm actually God of Chance. I'll give you all inspiration. Or I'll give you all maybe some sort of divine weapon or spell. And he'll be like, oh, well, I bet you guys will do great. So what I did was I took Susher and I took this whole god, like hidden god idea, and I ended up actually making him Drizzt, who is a demon lord who actually doesn't really show up. It's because I can't spell anything. It doesn't show up in this is Grizzed. Oh, I'm thinking Grizzed. He doesn't show up in the book, which is a big pain because the whole point is Grizzed D&D. I can't find him right now. There he is. And he's powerful because he's the only like human-sized demon lord. So I kind of played as Susher as undercover him, and the whole idea is that he doesn't show up in the entire campaign. He's just kind of briefly mentioned, maybe you can do a cameo, and I didn't like the idea of Out of the Abyss without having all the demon lords showing up and having a dominating presence in one way or another. And I took the idea of that Jim Jar, as I mentioned earlier, and I kind of cross-mixed it, and I did a whole bunch of stuff. So next is Darendil. It seems like I'm like not really giving these characters a lot of time, but what you'll probably notice is that these books, especially Out of the Abyss, doesn't really offer too much. Out of the Abyss has a really cool idea for Darendil. The book will offer like, hey, here's an idea. Darendil thinks that he is from a town called like blah blah blah, and he was polymorphed into a closet by an evil wizard, right? That alone is whatever. I mean, that's not too great. The book does take it further. It gives it a good spin. Frazal Blue also infected him with madness. Truly, he is a Quasit who was tempered and believes that not no. What are you talking about? Frazal Blue, the god of madness. No. It's a he's a Quagoth. I'm sorry, a Quagoth, which is that like kind of like werewolf monster thing. So Frazal Blue infected this Quagoth just literally just for shits and giggles and made him think that he was an elf prince from this town, and the whole thing's a sham. And if he's ever confronted with this sham, this lie, and this isn't a tough check if you ever look up the city that he's from, or your characters try to do a history check, or they go to the library eventually, and maybe someone mentions it, they'll all mention, hey, that we've never heard that place, and eventually the characters will realize that it's not real. If confronted in any chance, he'll go into a blind rage. He'll go into a blind rage and attack all the characters, and that's literally it. I mean, yeah, you can have fun with this. You can have like this, like it'll be fun to role play a werewolf type individual as like this high, like preppy elf. That could be fun. I wouldn't say not to do it, but I personally did not. Right. So then there's Ront, which is an entire orc. He's literally just like the stereotypical like gym guy. He is super strong, and he's incredibly dumb, and he's pretty harsh and not a great person. He would rather pick a fight and throw a fist before giving anything a second thought. And I genuinely I believe I include the character specifically so that he can die later on. So another one is Sereth. Sereth is amazing. See, there's a lot of people. Luckily I got this nifty tool to kind of bring it down, right? Sereth is a really awesome character, and he is someone I implemented, and I kept him with the party for quite a long time. Sereth is a drow, as you can see, and he ends up in the slave pens with all the other characters. And I love this because, of course, your characters aren't going to trust this guy right from the start. Why is there another drow here? What was the point? Well, Sereth ended up becoming imprisoned because he woke up and at his feet he saw another drow that was murdered. Sereth has no recollection. He has no idea what happened. Just moments before, he just woke up and there was a bloodied man in front of him, another drow. So Lavar, knowing that Sereth is a powerful, warrior, basically Sereth he's confused. He doesn't understand what's going on, and Ilvar doesn't know who and what to believe. Neither does Sereth. Whether or not he did kill this individual or not is up to you. I, of course, had him do that. And the reason is because you see these red specks. I'm not just being insensitive. Sereth is genuinely infected by a particular fungus infused with phasers, right? And this comes from our main bad bitch, Zugmi, earlier, the one that was, mushroom nice lady. Well, eventually Sereth's kind of spores will kind of grow, and they'll kind of take him out, and it'll what's the word? It'll just take complete control of him like a parasite, and this is tough for the party, because if you play him in a sense of like being someone who is there for the party, being the party's the outside people, and now Sarah is the one who, hey, I understand how the Underdark work. Yeah, I can tell you that we can follow Susher to Shloop the Loop. Like, I can confirm that it's 7 days travel. I can tell you that, yeah, Ilvar is gonna kill you. And the nice thing about the rest of the camp is that whatever you miss out, Sereth can kind of fill in the gaps, right? If they don't realize that, they're like, where's our inventory? And they never get to Elvar's quarters due to it being like a layer thing, and due to there being guards and spiders everywhere. Sereth can be like, yeah, that's probably where they are, Sereth can fill in a lot of stuff, and eventually will become a useful member. Sereth's a good fighter, and I had him join the party and fight all the way up until they've reached an entire village filled with Micah Knights, but I'll go over that later once we get into that area. Was there any friendly Star Wars Special asks, were there any friendly drow or good aligned drow in the intro? That is your best bet is Sereth. I like to play him as that, he's not the just the one drow who does end up being good. Sereth is put in this circumstance and he understands the culture well enough to know that he's going to die, and there's really nothing he can do. He's just as vulnerable in this situation, and being a drow doesn't help him at all. So of course it's to his best interest to help the players out. If Jorlan comes around and the characters kind of do something to piss him off, Sereth can kind of be that bridging gap. That didn't happen in my campaign, but you can really do that. You use the fact that he's a drow, use the fact that he comes from the Underdark to your advantage. Now, when there's other characters, because I mentioned earlier, the point of the NPCs is really to give like characters an NPC or a place to go. Well, there's a character named Eldeth. Eldeth Money Changer. I have never typed that in. I don't know what the hell that was. Oh, there she is. Eldith Felden. Gosh. That's not her. That would be cool if that was her. There she is. Oh, these are all the NPCs. That's awesome. So this is Felden. She's a shield dwarf from the surface. She can take the characters back to Gauntlgrim. Now, she could do that once the characters get to the surface. Right now, they have no idea how far away they are. And again, getting back to the surface is a near impossible task. For as far as the characters know, the tunnels, and this is how you should DM too, because it is such a disorienting area, the tunnels change every day. With the 1 mile to get you back to the surface one day can be tunneled through by a giant purple worm, or maybe the phasers literally encrystaled a wall there, or maybe an earthquake from the Demigorgon moving about has sealed up areas, right? So Eldith can get you there once you're on the surface. I had Eldith be a really awesome kind of like familiar face. I had her die. I don't like having too many NPCs that are kind of like running about. Again, her whole thing is being able to bring the characters to Gracklstaf, which they shouldn't reach until they get out of the surface, which is midway out of the book. And like I said, I don't like that burden of putting just random characters on my party. So the other two here are Topsy and Turvy, two twin. I changed their names. I like the names I chose, but two deep gnomes again. So gnomes from the Underdark. They're more innocent. Topsy doesn't speak much, very coy, while Turvy does kind of all the work and the action. Now both I played them both as, like I said, extremely innocent, very powerful rogues, but not in the sense of more in the sense of utilization, lockpicking, stealth, small tasks like that. The cool thing about Topsy and Turvy is that not only are they a kind of tour, they can kind of get the characters around in the Underdark. They are were-rats, were-rat being a type of lichen disease from the rat strain. So on a full moon, these two characters will turn into kind of uncontrollable monsters. Now, when you're in the Underdark and you haven't seen the sun because it's thousands of miles away, you also don't see the moon. So it's a really awesome opportunity to, at any point you want, have these characters transform due to the moon, right? And none of the characters would be the wiser. It would even be kind of fun, like mystery for the party to try and figure out what it is that got them to change. Were they angry? Were they this? Were they that? Well, it's just bad timing. And then when you paint these characters as innocent and helpful party members because they just want to live, and you turn them into monsters, how far do you want to push them or your party to the point where do we kill them? Do we get rid of them? Do we, just knock them unconscious? What if this happens again? What if this happens when we're in a town? Change it. Change them maybe right before they escape. Just bring the HP of the party down a little bit, or maybe even like once they finally get into a bazaar or a store or a marketplace or Menzo Branson and they're sneaking around. Beautiful place to just drop that little button and spruce it all up. Now, I believe I only have to go, this is Susher, but I really like the kind of like punchy boy that I showed you guys earlier. And this is Stool. I don't know what he looks like this. This is a weird picture, even for Dungeons and Dragons, especially since the rest of the myconids don't look like that. Myconids are a species of mushrooms, right? And they're pretty cool. They don't speak, probably because they don't have tongues or mouths. What they will do instead is communicate using something called report spores. These are friendly spores that your party might not be extremely ready to accept, as they kind of absorb into skin. And for a little bit, they give every person who has absorbed these spores about an hour of telepathic communication. So right off the bat, you have a pretty nice up your like the characters have a nice card up their sleeve only because in their pen, instead of trying to sneak everything around, they can openly discuss how they're going to escape using the report sports. This is also really fun because as a DM, you don't have to voice Stool unless he's doing the report stories. You can basically have him kind of like shamble in the background all the time. Another thing is that Stool, actually sounds like poop, is also a pacifist, as so are all the Mechanids. Until there's a certain fungus related demon lord who kind of enters the picture, but I'll get there when I get there. All I'm gonna say is this is kind of like, I'm just gonna take this off screen for a second. That's basically what happens. So those are all of the potential NPCs that the characters will run into, right? And so all these individuals will be in the slave pen with the characters, while the four main drow are out in their field, and then the rest of the drow are running around. What was it? Sereth can take them to Menzo Baranzan. Eldith can take them to Crackle Stuff, and if you don't want to get them there that early, just kill her off, right? And the only other place that's worth going is the City of Blades, and you can genuinely, since they're all Underdark monsters or creatures, you can basically give any of the Underdark monsters, or I shouldn't call them that. That's so harsh to me. I'm calling them. Sereth is a good boy. He's not a monster. Not yet. He will be. He turns into something really bad. Oh, see, this art looks so cool. I like that. That's his head. That's his brain popping off once the mushrooms start to get in there. But you can have these characters be kind of tour guides, right? And you can kind of not railroad, but really suggest where to go using these characters. If Susher's the only one that makes it out and he knows how to get to Koet or Schloop the Loop, and the other option is mindlessly wandering for thousands of miles, they're probably going to go there, right? If you want your characters, and in Schloop the Loop, that's when the book kind of suggests summoning the Demigorgon. As a matter of fact, in terms of how the campaign's set, you basically do have to summon the Demigorgon at there, and I'll cover that chapter in the third stream, in chapter 3. So if you want to do that first, or if you kind of want to wait off, show the big guy last, you can have maybe Stool bring them to Neverlight Grove, which is another area. There they will encounter the Fungus Queen, or at least visions of her, which will send characters into madness. And that's what's so cool, is that you really have to embrace how the aura of the monstrous power just shoots off and genuinely affects your players just from the sight of them. You know, it's kind of like that Cthulhu-esque, like your brain can't comprehend it. And once your party starts to kind of make their way over those obstacles, that's when they'll start feeling like not only are they growing and maturing, but becoming genuine, serious superheroes. It's pretty cool, and I think that should be really a big move. But as I was saying, if you want the characters to get to the surface right away, have Ront know the only other way, due to his orcish village coming down to the Underdark every couple of seasons to grab a special type of like mushroom or lettuce or rocks. Or if you want to go to the City of Blades right away, right? You can have Bubido or Jim Jar, or again, Sereth, who being a drow living in Underdark, he knows his way around the dark. Like, you can have them take him there. In the City of Blades, you have Thunder Chad, who I mentioned, some of the people in the stream mentioned earlier. I got a shirt with him. I like to imagine that it's him, but he's an awesome character, and he can really turn the sides of how your party act. For us, probably our biggest session was when the party chose to ally with, or one member chose to ally with the red dragon. His name's Thunder Shad. We call him Thunder Chad because it's funnier. Okay, like honestly, I want to give you that's D and D, baby. That's all it is, baby. You just make shit up. Whatever's funny floats the boat. But every location has an incredible amount of quests and some sort of pivotal event that will show your characters like the madness is growing. Madness is growing, and I believe the best way to show that is to do Schloop the Loop first with the Demigorgon, and then go to the City of Blades, and then eventually Blinding Stone, and just show off these areas and how they just absolutely get trashed through some sort of madness, either being, you know, destroyed by the Demogorgon, or a civil war, or mind being corrected by spores. It's fantastic, and it's very creepy. And you can make it, like I said, foreign and alien. You can turn this into some sort of alien isolation, where your characters are just trying to get out of the spaceship, and the spaceship is the entire continent of the Underdark. And it's pretty terrifying and pretty awesome. And that's honestly what I would recommend. So that was kind of chapter one. Those were the characters. The last thing I kind of really want to go over is the map of the chapter, because it is fairly important to know the layout. It's not too bizarre to it's not too difficult to figure out. Really quick too, this, I haven't been using this a lot. I just bought it. I'm so excited. But I'm gonna practice this and hopefully get better, and I'm going to take all of my notes, because I know I'm talking a lot, and I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff again and again and being useless. But here, look, I'm pretty good at drawing too. Here I'm gonna put all my notes. This is Sereth. I paid $90 for this. This is awesome, right? That's Dungeons and Dragons, baby. So I'll go over the map. The place takes, or the chapter one takes place in the Underdark, in a specific encampment called Valkenvelf. Valkenvelf. Of course I'm not going to spell it right, but I know the map will show up too, right? Here you go. This is perfect. This is actually what the book offers it. Valkenvelf, like I said, is an encampment of that the Drows hold, and they will go out onto the surface and pull individuals and bring them on back down. This kind of takes place on a cliffside, and again, there's about 200 to 300 feet. It's up to you. Numbers don't matter. They're not real. Valkenvelf, right? It's on the side of a cliff. I like the idea of just honestly putting about 200, 500 feet from the cliffside when your characters get out to the floor. Why do I do that? Well, imagine trying to get out of prison. Okay, that sounds pretty hard. I like to imagine it's pretty. Now imagine trying to escape from a prison that is hanging off the side of a cliff. Like I said earlier, the Grand Canyon times 1,000. That sucks. That super sucks. But your characters have a few options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 2D aspect, and then I'm going to go through the 3D. Honestly, oh, and here you have some of the maps of like Neverlight Grove, of Blinding Stone, some of these really cool areas. As you can kind of see, oh, I wish I could just draw. Dizzy Bird, if you could help me out. If I can draw directly on these images, that'd be even cooler, but I got the maps right here. So your characters will start in this pen. So what you see here, these hanging, I'll start with that. These hanging towers are stalactites. I've already looked it up earlier. Stalactites hanging from the ceiling, stalagmites protrude up. Just want to get that out there. So there's about 3 buildings. There's an extra one here. Not necessarily important. The first one that is important is the one with this thing going on. This is fun. I like this. What this is Elvara's quarters. Here we have Elvara's quarters. This is great. I'm glad I immediately just started fucking all over it. Elvara's quarters has well, her quarters, the party's equipment, and it has this awesome little figure. What is that? Well, the book describes it as a life size and incredibly accurate stone carving of a giant spider. And Lolth and Ashra will come here to pray, and there's nice like pillows, there's like beds, and there's like webs and all kinds of stuff. Below it is Ashra's quarters. That's where as I said, Elvara lives on the top, Ashra on the bottom, with her own individual like pieces, maybe her own magic, maybe her own like desks. There isn't anything like really worth taking from here except for the party's equipment, which will again be found in Elvara's quarters. On the very lowest page, Short, the boyfriend of Elvara, will live. The kind of fact that even though, you know, being an official lover, Ashra being the apprentice, who Elvara knows in, you know, classic bad guy fashion, the rule of 2 from the Sith, Ashra's probably going to eventually kill Elvara. Elvara would still prefer Ashra living right below her, and then her boyfriend living all the way on the bottom tier. So that is on one side. These other towers will hold basically Jorland's own kind of spot. He still has his own chamber versus the rest of the guards who all live in the barracks. And again, the barracks being kind of like these empty holes. Again, the book isn't too crazy about like filling them in besides Elvara's quarters and Shore's, but you can kind of play with it, you know, have a kitchen here, have this here. If you want your characters to do meaningful tasks like cleaning like toilets, you can have the toilets be up there. and so on and so forth. Like as I mentioned earlier, the loot isn't necessarily impressive. Again, your party realistically should not even have the chance to go in there. It's not a good idea. As I mentioned, you see the spider webs kind of all around. There's about 10 giant spiders living there, and at one giant spider should be able to slaughter this entire crew, right? They don't have their weapons, and if they did, they probably didn't get them without losing HP. And at level 2, what do you got? 10, 12 hit points. If you're a wizard, you got even less than that. So it's not a great idea. Um, and really, like I said, focus on that. Really show the characters like, hey, you guys shouldn't feel optimistic about this, as I said earlier. The characters will start in their slave pens, which is right here, and that is right here. As you can kind of see, I have no pen. It's basically just a hole, and then there's this gate. This gate's right here that's circled. This magical gate of anti-ex machina, anti-fun, anti-Dungeons and Dragons. This gate is everything that Dungeons and Dragons shouldn't be, because I don't believe in doing kind of absolutes like this. This gate will block magic. It's impervious to damage. It's just a one-sided wall that, you know, it's just, there's nothing you can do. And again, even at level 1, I never like that kind of stuff, because even if the players do break out of their bounds, which takes a skill check of like maybe 20 strength, without a key, again, there's no way through. And even creative minds don't even get to flex here. But eventually they'll get out and they can go right, which is down the steps, and then down more steps, and they'll eventually hit the bottom floor, 150 feet. Now the spiders can move pretty quickly. So can the Quagals. I think they have a speed of like 40, and so a dash of 80. With the stairs going down 150, and your party probably having about 10 to 12 people, depending on how many NPCs you put in there and how many players you have, someone's gonna get caught, right? So straight running around isn't a great idea. On the opposite end, all the way across the bridge, I'm over here. I'm gonna change this to green. I'll do yellow. Here we go. So the character will run across the bridge, see this awesome waterfall, keep running. They would not go into Elvar's quarters, because this is I was gonna do like a skull and bones, but it's so hard to draw. This is death. This is bad. What they'll actually do is want to get here, which is a lift. That's right. There's fucking elevators in this campaign. That's so cool. Fucking love elevators. Using the lift, they could go straight down to the lake. Now, why would the drow have that, right? You always have to think as a DM, why would this be here? Why is this here, right? Like, why is there a gate? Why is there a waterfall? Think about all these things, because you don't want to put anything that has no point, right? There's that entire like drama thing in the drama club and theater arts of never give a character a loaded gun on screen, and not have the intention of it going off, right? Think about that with all your NPCs. I didn't put the orc in there because I didn't necessarily want a bumbling orc to just slow things down, to get in stereotypical arguments where I call one of my players old, and then like that character says something back, and then he automatically gets mad and he fights back. You know, like the gym stereotype type kind of like stuff. That's boring. It's not fun. Having the characters who can take the characters to another place, who can fill them in, say, hey, actually, the Underdark is, not so bad of a place, as long as you kind of don't talk to one and close your eyes and don't move. Which is kind of like the theme of the thing. But basically, this elevator, the characters will get in the elevator and go down into the lake. This is what the drow do. And this is actually one of the tedious tasks you can do. This is where they empty out their wastes. Literally poop or stool. He's in the boat. He's one of the NPCs. Anyway, and stool means poop. In this lake lives a beast that kind of absorbs all this stuff, right? Because they're not gonna throw just trash and shit in a lake. They still live in the Underdark. I think they're eco-friendly, that's how I played them. So instead, what they have down there, feasting on all these feces and trash, is so in that lake, what I like to do is put that black pudding. Black pudding, why does that sound familiar? Because that's the same black pudding all the way back that attacked Jorlin. And now you have a living, breathing kind of circle of events. You have things that exist to interact with other ones, and you have history. If you can show history to your players and convince them of it without having to be like, I read a book and actually 100 years ago, blah, blah, blah happened, right? You don't want to tell them. You want to show them. then you'll make a living, breathing world. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Like I said, Elvar, the matriarchy part, right? Elvar is in control of everything. If Shore gets a little too bombastic, goes into the slave pens and accidentally kills someone, and now they have to go get Elvira to resurrect him, Elvira could make a entire example of Shore. Maybe she'll be like, hey, who the hell are you? I rounded these people up so we can go kill them, and now you're making a mess of it, you're slowing us down. She'll make a mess of him and make an example. Maybe now there's 2 ex-boyfriends and now there's like an ex-boyfriend club. It's great. I didn't do that, but you should have this like living, breathing, consequential order of things, and that's not too hard to do. And just because you're dealing with spiders, just because you're dealing with drow or sunlight sensitive individuals, doesn't mean that you can give them all a sense of purpose, right? The fact that they're living underground and being sunlight sensitive for years and not going to the surface, there's a pretty good reason right there why they would hate all surface dwellers, why they're specifically maybe hunting surface dwellers for sacrifices, right? That envious rage kind of building up inside of them. Anyway, the elevator, as I was trying to explain fucking 20 minutes ago, this elevator will bring you down to the lake, and that's an easy way to have the characters kind of descend quickly, right? One thing that they could do is that there's also all these spider webs. They can jump off straight up, as Star-Lord Special says, have them jump off the side. This should be an extremely desperate attempt, and you should DM it as so. Have them be uncertain if they're going to survive. Have it be a very high perception check just to catch, the glitter or maybe some of the rain or the water from the waterfall kind of just glistening on some of these spider webs. Have the idea of like, maybe we can fall into the webs and then we can fall into the lake, kind of breaking our fall by half, right? Instead of taking that whole damage. And you can do that stuff like that. I believe we didn't get that far. The characters did end up, my characters, I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you all about how my characters broke this piece of stalactite, fell down, used a pocket hole to hide from the damage of falling that far, and how they got out. But I'll do that later on in a little bit. Another way is the north and south exits. Again, being in the Underdark, every tunnel only goes the way that you as a DM wants them to go. If they manage to go all the way to this end, right, it could lead them to the same place as this place and this place, because when your characters go to the right side, they're not going to wander for multiple sessions and then come back and be like, what was going the other way. And what if they do? What if you prepared Sloop the Loop and all this stuff and they're going all this way and now they want to go the other way? And the Koatoa has been saying, well, Sloop the Loop's this way. Well, you're not going to railroad them. Say, oh, actually there was another way we can go all the way around. Or actually, and you can do this, a giant purple worm came in and capsized this cave. Have them go all the way around. Maybe they interact with the drow again, or maybe now take another chapter, take out Blinding Stone, take out Grackle stuff, play a little bit with like the dwarves and some of the other stuff, because your characters, as my kind of rule of DM, your characters shouldn't get out of the Underdark until they reach kind of like their final destination of these tours of city to city to city. You can always just push that final like portal or way out until you deem necessary, right? And maybe if you have a way of order in Shloop the Loop, they have to get out. They go to Crackle stuff, and the characters do everything they can because they think in Crackle stuff they can get out. Well, maybe they do the whole quest to find out that Blinding Stone actually has the way out. So now they're going to Blinding Stone, and at Blinding Stone, disaster occurs, and all the myconids and the mushroom are flocking, and they're cracking through like small cracks, or they're running through small gaps in the holes and walls to escape, and maybe say, hey, come to Blinding Stone, we totally have a way out. I mean, it is a bit of a chase and it could sound tedious, but if you can do this right, your characters will never really, you can genuinely, I'm not saying lie to your players, that's D&D, baby. I mean, you can kind of play things around however you want. You as a DM, you're not like telling your own story, because that's not our goal. You're not allowed to tell your own story. You only offer the sandbox and the individuals inside of it, and it is your players' responsibility to tell a story. Now, I don't say that in the sense of it's their job, because it's not. All they want to do is have fun, and in doing so, they will craft the best story that you could have possibly ever come up with. So that's basically Falcon Velvet. It's not great. It's pretty simple. A lot of the stuff is. And now I'll go through and explain how the book kind of wants you to run it. As I mentioned, I already kind of mentioned most of it. The characters will do tedious tasks. They could pick up a few things, maybe a gold piece or so. They'll do those tasks until either they get out on their own way, and maybe they'll jump off, and maybe they'll go to the north side, maybe they'll go to the south side, maybe the Koatoa can tell them, whatever, but eventually they'll escape. The chapter ends with the Drow being on hot pursuit, and chapter 2 is all about that never-ending kind of give up. The beginning of your first session of chapter 2 should be so fresh from chapter 1 that your characters aren't fully rested, and they are only maybe 30 minutes behind the 20 Drow that are now chasing them and a pissed off Elvira. You should really play with that. Play with that like fatigue. Play with the exhaustion. Have it be never ending. No one's getting full rest. And don't turn into like a, if nothing's going on and you're giving your characters fatigue and exhaustion, and then they go through and they fight a rock monster and then they have more exhaustion and then nothing happens. That's boring. You don't want to do that. You want to give them a situation that's fun, the Drow are chasing them, and put in variables, sprinkle that over fatigue or inspiration for the way that they got out, or throw in, scare them a little bit, have the Drow be just seconds away from them. And just like I mentioned with the Vrock, maybe right before they get captured, a giant purple worm comes on in and completely separates them just by seconds. But that's more chapter 2. Chapter 2 is a lot of traveling and Underdark stuff. Now I'll go through what our session looked like. I will be chopping this up. I appreciate everyone for watching. I thought I organized things a lot better, but I still got really anxious and I started running into the problem where I just repeat the same thing again and again, and I get off task and people are talking about rocks, and that always gets me fucking excited, and I really can't do anything about that. But I do understand that maybe watching the stream, it's a little jittery, it's a little everywhere. I hope that my YouTube videos do clear things up, and I do expect to do better, especially with my next chapter, which is, in my opinion, the most important chapter. Chapter 2 is Into the Darkness. It is your characters or your party going through the Underdark in a means to survive. I think it's the most important chapter in the book to run, because there's so much traveling in between the cities. You need to master this, because this chapter 2 is, I really appreciate that Ghost Cool. But I mean, like, hearing myself say rocks 7 million times, like, fuck me. But I had a good time, and that's kind of like the most important thing, is that I know I can keep going, and I hope to capture all of Out of the Abyss eventually, with Thursday, right? And as I said, chapter 2 is important because every time your characters end up traveling from place to place, you don't want to star swipe them, right? That's not fun. It's not immersive. You basically have to implement chapter 2 into every single time your characters are traveling, up until the point where they get a boat or they get a helmet of teleportation, which is a fucking godsend. That's the most useful item. I was happy to give it to my players because I'm like, oh my god, I no longer have to fucking try in this game anymore. But I am excited to organize that and to try and put that down and share that information with you in the easiest, most digestible way possible. But yeah, that'll basically be it. 2 hours in, hopefully it'll be good. I will be streaming every Thursday at 4 p.m. and I should be closing about an hour before Critical Role. So if you're already waiting to watch some stuff, Critical Role, a D&D game maybe some of you guys have heard of, something about I was gonna make a joke tying it back to Adventure Zone, but I'm so fucking tired and anxious. I have no idea what I was even saying. But anyway, thank you very much. I'll be putting this onto YouTube. I'll be putting this on better versions cut up right back onto Twitch, and hopefully I will see you guys on Thursday at 4 p.m. with a brand new chapter. We'll keep running chapters until I finish Out of the Abyss. Maybe we'll talk about Curtis Lestrade, have some interviews, and honestly, I'm hoping I get more chat, because the whole goal is to get ideas running from all sorts of DMs, because I'm not very good at this. As I said earlier, I said lying is Dungeons and Dragons. That's probably not a good thing for a DM to say. So if I can have other DMs in the chat kind of pop out and say like, hey, this is what I think. Hey, you've mispronounced everything you said. And I'll probably just kick you for saying that, to be honest, because Shloop de Loop is much funner than whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. But that's where I'll end all of that. And thank you guys so much. hopefully see you Thursday. Bye.